Hello once again, I'm Doug.
I'm Barb.
And here we are at our massive Olympia Cremina tech video. This is in addition to the rebuild that we saw. I'm going to call this machine evaluation and fault diagnosis from the exterior of the machine. Just received this machine for rebuild, and as you can see, it's pretty ugly. This is a 1984 machine. No asbestos on the boiler. And this is the modern type of steam arm. But you can see what in the world happened here. First thing that we can look inside the boiler, and there's a lot of crap in there. I don't know if
I can see in there or not.
But you basically, no, I don't think you're going to be able to
No, I can't really see anything.
But there's a lot of black scale in the boiler, a lot of blackening. But this is kind of an exceptional case. I've really never seen such an oxidized mess, basically. Now, we've got areas of blue scale on the outside of the boiler all the way down to here. You begin to ask yourself, what happened with this machine? There's a lot of rust. We've got rust on these steel bolts. We've got exterior scale up here on the pressure safety valve. This is really bizarre. This piece here is usually chrome plated, and these are brass on the ends, but this is completely brown. Now let's just concentrate on the boiler first. There's a very good chance that this side here, this may be a pinhole leak up at the top, which the reason I say that is that this type of effect you usually see on the vacuum breaker caps that have failed, and it gets a lot of water. See, here's a lid. We have scale here, and we have a lot of coffee, but this scale right here, it could be just that this seal was leaking. And it was constantly cascading water down on top of the boiler, and over time it developed these scale patterns. But if you look here, you can see this one, Barb? You see this spot? See that little pimple? That is likely a pinhole. Fairly likely. Now, over here, see this spot in here? This patch of little dots of scale, that is another area. That's likely a pinhole right there. Now, where this came from, it doesn't look like this was leaking. A lot of this looks like it cascaded down from the top of this machine. So, from the start, when just doing a diagnosis here, we're going to have to take this off. This down in here, this is a homemade gasket that somebody hand cut out of what looks like inner tube, possibly. It's not the right kind of rubber. It just doesn't feel good. So from the start, you say, well, what am I going to have to do to this machine? What's my rebuild here? Well, more scale diagnosis over here. All of this on the group, this means that the rod seal has been leaking. The scale all around in this portion here. Okay, we look down in here. There's a lot of cleaning. There's going to be coffee under here. That's as hard as rock. So we're looking at rebuilding the group. That has absolutely no cushion at all. So basically the seals are shot. We know that. But whatever's going on inside of this compartment that you're either leaking water or spitting water through these pinholes. And there's also a kind of a unusual for an Olympia machine. There's right in here. There's some worrisome.
Hold it still for a minute.
There's some worrisome areas that usually that's a nicely soldered seam. So there might be some brazing that's going to have to be done. This leak, obviously a big leak, and it could be anywhere. So that's to find out down the road. But the other thing we're going to notice here is that every electrical connector but one is melted or gone. These are melted off. You see, these are just completely gone. Now this is all.
It's like that white wire is actually, the insulation is broken on it at that connector.
Oh yeah, back in here. That looks dangerous. Yeah, right there. So it seems to me that what has happened is that the corrosion that had developed from whatever leaks over here, both of these on the P-stat, has corroded all of the other parts in this machine, and corrosion is what generally causes these terminals to melt away to nothing. And so we've got a lot of cleaning. Every one of these terminal ends is going to have to be replaced, if not the entire wiring harness.
It'd be easier to replace the wiring harness.
It might be if I had one of those with the little labels on the ends of them.
I could make you one.
See over in here, pilot light, melted. Every one of these is melted. And they melted because the oxidation inside the case, the moisture basically just rusted the terminals and turned them into little heaters. Each one of these terminals got dirty.
That one's amazing with the giant drip.
Yeah, look at the drip on that one.
Wow.
It's like amber. Yeah. There's a little fly in there.
Yeah, it's like the sap from the trees.
Yeah, it does look like sap from the trees, but each one of those turned into little resistors, little bit of resistance, a little heater, and those points got hot enough to melt every one of those terminals, and those were pretty high temperature too.
Yeah.
So this was when this machine was operating, and it was, a fairly dangerous situation. So there's a lot of electrical diagnosis to do down the line, but it's kind of like reading tea leaves. Is that you look and you see, well, what happened to this machine? And it does interest me to see that first we have the leaks. It gets wet. This happens over a long period of time to produce this much scale. It gets wet inside, stays humid. And once it stays humid, then it creates the atmosphere for these to all oxidize. These oxidize and melt. And it's just kind of a wonder that the machine didn't completely short out.
Maybe it did.
And maybe it did. We don't know that yet. But this is just kind of the initial look at what looks like it's going to be a pretty challenging rebuild on a 1984 machine. And whatever comes up on this one that hasn't been mentioned on the big rebuild of the 1976 orange model that we did, we'll keep you posted on what happens on this one. But I'm surprised that even moves. Boy, did that baby. Look at that. Pump water. But anyway, kind of an exceptionally a scaled up mess we have here that caused some problems down the line, and well, they can all be dealt with them, and that's what we do, is we deal with them. So thank you very much. We'll check back on this one, see how it works.